Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of my 1975 Chevy Blazer Restoration. So in the last episode, we got all of the rust panels completely cut out of this truck. So now in this episode, we are going to finish trimming everything out. We're gonna have to make a couple pieces, and then hopefully we're gonna get all of our brand new sheet metal installed. So one of the biggest things that we need to get done right now are these floor braces and these inner rockers. We need to cut out these old floor braces. I have new ones on the way, and then we also need to cut out this inner rocker. I'm gonna wait until the panel gets here just so we can see how much of the panel we have. But I wanna work on getting all of this sheet metal replaced first. I also have this piece coming and that piece in the rear. And then once we have all of that cut out, we're gonna clean the entire inside of this. We're gonna clean the outsides of our rocker boxes, or the insides of our rocker boxes. And then we're gonna put those on, reinstall those, re-weld those up. That way we can just finish up this portion of the body and we'll have a lot of our structure back.
How did we get here?
Okay, so I got this piece removed and we're gonna have to do a little bit of patchwork on this piece. Luckily, the top of it was all good. You can see I got it all cut out. Now this piece right here, we're gonna be replacing, that's coming, so I'm not gonna worry about that. And then up front, we got the front floor brace completely removed. It was an absolute pain in the butt to get out. We had to cut it up into a million pieces to get it out of there. So now that that is out, we have a new one coming. So that is pretty much it for this side. I am looking at maybe replacing part of this floor because it is pretty rotted. My inner rocker, this is inner rocker and this is inner rocker. So I have to wait until my inner rocker comes to see how much of this the inner rocker comes with, because it may come hopefully to at least right here. And then I will just cut this out and repatch this. If it doesn't come with that, I'm probably gonna be looking at getting a floor patch for this side. That way I can fix this correctly. I also got the seatbelt bolt out. It was super stuck, so that is out. And then I got the quarter extension removed. So that is pretty much it for this side. So now I'm gonna move to that side and we are gonna do the same exact thing. Cut all of that rust out and then hopefully it's in better condition than this side. Okay, so it's been a couple months since that last clip. Just got busy with work and with life and everything going on. But today we are getting back to work on the 75 Blazer. So pretty much I made a huge order of metal and everything is here that we need. I have both of my bedside. I have my outer wheel wells right there. Both rockers, because both the rockers were wrong. The floor braces, which are right here. These are the inner footwell panels. These are inner rockers. And then this is bed floor. Now that should pretty much fix all of the metalwork that we need to do on the Blazer. So really what we need to start with is we need to finish removing this old floor brace right here first. And then it's super important to kind of plan how you're going to attack this. All of these panels overlap each other in some way or another. So you can see this is our floor and it comes down, and then we have that front footwell piece right here, which is on top of that. The rocker sits on top of this, but the inner rocker sits below that. And then it also sits on top of this piece, but then we need to do some patches on the floor, and underneath that is where our floor brace is gonna sit. So basically, I think what we're gonna start with is we're actually gonna cut this out, make the floor patch first, and then after that, we are going to do our inner rocker, and then we'll do our footwell. And then once all that is done, we'll be able to do our floor brace, which is right there, which goes underneath here. And then finally, to finish it all off, we will do our outer rocker. Now we're pretty much gonna have to do the same thing on both sides because both sides are this bad. And then there's also a lot of little patchwork that we have to do. They actually do not sell this piece. So I have to cut this rust out or cut these bad patches out, redo them, and then save this piece. But I'm super lucky because most of the other stuff they make, so I'm actually gonna be able to replace it.
So I wanted to keep my patch pretty small on the front of this floor just because if I moved more towards the inside, there's actually a main floor brace that goes across that and it's really hard to get to. So I got the piece cut and put into place, and then I started tacking it in place. You want to make sure that you are doing a couple tacks and then cooling the panel just because this metal is so thin and it will warp. Okay, so this front floor patch is all the way finished up. You can see if we look underneath the floor, there is a ton of penetration, and that is exactly what you want. And that is exactly why when I spot weld, I do 2 to 3 tacks, just because the first tack is always cold, the second one is warmer, and then the third one penetrates really well. And then I will cool them. And while I was working on the floor patch, Michael was on the passenger side getting the rest of the passenger floor brace out of the way. So now that that's done, it was time for me to start on the driver's side inner rocker. I had to cut all of the spot welds off of the middle of the panel, that way I can get it pried away far enough and get the new patch in.
Okay, so I had to take this inner flange off. This is what my outer rocker is going to weld to. They actually don't make these, and this one is pretty rotted, so I'm actually gonna have to build this. But you can see now that that is off, we have a clear sight of what needs to be replaced. So they actually don't sell a lot of the parts for the Blazer, but they sell all of the parts for the truck. So this is a inner rocker for a 73 to 87 truck cab. And so it's a little different. I'm actually gonna have to cut this up a little bit, modify it, and make it work. So I'm thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna come in along this seam right here and slit this, if this is the same gap as this right here, which it may not be. It looks a little bit thinner. But I'm gonna take some measurements there and see. If not, worst case scenario is I have to come along this line, cut this, and then I'll just replace this right here, which is the most rotted. So let's get that cut out and let's get that new panel welded in.
Okay, so I got the inner rocker cut off, and you can see exactly where I had to cut. Now, I had to modify this inner rocker because it's for a Chevy truck to make it work for the Blazer. You can see that upper flange was not long enough. I was worried about that all along, so I had to slice it down the middle, and I'm just gonna weld them both down the middle.
Okay, so the inner rocker is prepped and ready to go in. I usually rust seal the back of panels where you're not going to be able to sandblast. And then I use a weld-through primer. That way, when it welds, it'll be able to penetrate and then also reseal so it won't re-rust. So now that that is prepped and this is prepped, I'm going to weld this on. And then Michael almost has this back outer wheel well replaced. So we're going to get both of these welded on right now.
Okay, so the inner rocker is all the way welded up. You can see I had to weld that entire seam right there. I spot welded the back because that is a structural piece. So now it is time to start on the driver footwell. You can see it is that rusty piece that's left over right there. We're going to go up, cut all that out, and weld this new piece in.
Okay, so that kicker panel is all the way welded in. You can see I just spliced it right here. I just really didn't want to have to go all the way up. Usually I try and replace as little as possible just because all of the aftermarket panels fit so terribly. So that is all welded in. It is all welded underneath. So the inner part of this side is pretty much all the way finished up. So we still have to make this flange that sits right here. And that is what the rocker welds to. So we have a brake so we can bend this piece, but the problem is it tapers up towards the end right here and we need a shrinker to do that. So I ordered a shrinker stretcher. It'll hopefully be here next week and I'll be able to build this piece and also build the other piece for the other side and get them welded on, and that will finish up all of the inner structure stuff on this side. I also noticed right here there is a couple holes in the floor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all this out, I'm going to patch it, and then that will pretty much finish up all of the inner stuff on this side. We still have a lot of work to do in the back. We have to patch this piece here and then also patch the piece that goes on the inside of this. So I think I'm going to keep going on the floor. I'm going to get the floor cut out, get it patched in, and then we are going to throw the brace underneath. That way we can get that finished up, and then we'll work our way back. Okay, so I got all of the rust cut out, and I mean from the bottom side it didn't look terrible, but you can see a lot of it was starting to come through just because of all the pitting. They actually don't make the floor for this truck either, so I was gonna look at ordering one, but they just don't make it. They make the ones for the truck, but they're different, so I wouldn't be able to use it. So what I did was I just got this flat piece of metal. I want to keep this piece in here because this is what stiffens the floor, and I don't have the tool to make that yet. So I just got this flat piece of metal. I cut it out pretty much like that. And you can see, usually what I do is I'll clean my edges and then I'll set it down and I'll mark exactly where all of the pieces are underneath. That way I can drill holes in this and then I'm going to spot weld it to this. The problem is, or the thing is, if you do not do that, if you don't spot weld it to this, you're going to be going down the road and this is going to be vibrating. Plus this is structural support here. You need to weld to this. So I got everything cleaned up. I'm going to rust seal around the edges and then do the same thing. Then I'm going to use the weld through primer and then weld this floor patch in. Alrighty, got the shop cleaned up. The Blazer moved outside, and look how good all of these patches look. I'm super stoked. It's coming along super nice. Got this patch right here done. That was just a ton of welding, but I am pretty happy with how it came out. Now, the reason I'm not worried about all of this rust on this panel is because I'm going to get this blasted, and then when everything gets back from blasting, we're going to CRE it. That way it'll be coated and we won't have any more issues with rust. So that's why I'm not really worried about cleaning the inside of this at all, just because the blaster is going to clean it all out and then we're going to coat it. So I'm just going to get all of the really metalwork done that we can see right now. And then if there is more stuff when it gets back from the blaster, which there probably will be, we'll fix that quick and then get it coated with the epoxy. And then Mike also got this back piece done, which came out pretty nice. Gotta fudge the bottom a little bit and make it come down and meet the quarter, but really we can't do any of that until we get our quarter on to see where the lip lines up. So now that all the driver's side flooring and inner rocker is pretty much done, it is time to get our floor brace in. It goes right on here, and I have to prep this whole area to get it ready, so that is what I'm gonna get started on next.
It's mixed on the beat. Slop Production. Slop Production.
Check that out, guys. So the floor brace is in. That was a ton of welding. So I welded it on both sides, on the front, on this side over here, down this back side. But this is a structural piece, so I did a ton of spot welds just because this needs to be really, really strong. Not only that, I coated underneath of it, so now really when it gets blasted, all of this is gonna get blasted, and then I'll just be able to coat it all at once. So that is pretty cool. Pretty much the whole entire front of this is finished up now.
So that is pretty much going to be the end of this video. I wanted to get most of the metalwork done in the front of this in this episode, but we ran into problems with the floor and patches that we had to make, so that took up a lot of our time. But the cool part is the driver's side of the Blazer is pretty much all the way finished up. So stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to be finishing up the driver's side and then hopefully knocking out the passenger side and getting most metalwork finished up on this Blazer.